Guys, welcome back to the channel. We are going to do episode 2 tonight of Making Macarons. And you can hear episode 1 in the background. Apparently, I have not turned it off yet. There we go. Okay, I'm back. Had to pause that one. Sorry about that. Okay, so episode 2 of Making Macarons. I want to get into what I refer to as the Macaron Bible, which is La Petite Macarons. This is the book right here. It is by Kathryn Gordon and Anne E. McBride. I bought this on Amazon probably 6 months into me making macarons. Like I had said on the previous video, I had been watching macaron videos and like trying to figure out, you know, how to make them and how to do certain things and the troubleshooting and all the issues I was having in the kitchen. And I needed a recipe. I didn't have like a consistent recipe. I kept trying the recipes on TV and nothing was working. Like it kept falling apart. Every time I made the macarons, they would either be too hollow or they would fall apart or they would volcano or something would happen and it just never worked out correctly. And then I came across La Petite Macarons. And this book has been a lifesaver when it has come to making macarons. So I highly suggest it once you want to start actually, making macarons and looking for a consistent recipe and just a whole bunch of different flavors and just the basics of, macarons, where they started, where they came from, the difference between a macaron and a macaroon, which is going to be episode 3 next Monday. How to make aged eggs. It's really neat, when you can see everything here. I even have, if you see on my little bunny ears, I have all these little things bookmarked from recipes that I want to try that I just have not even gotten around to trying yet because Labelle's has kind of been blowing up lately. I mean, February, this year in general, but February, starting with the heart macarons that I did for Valentine's Day, they blew up. People went crazy over them, and it was amazing. And I am so grateful. It has been great. The 2 farmers markets we've done this month have been absolutely consistently amazing. So this second year for La Belle Petite Pastries has just been awesome so far. And I'm really hoping that it continues. But yeah, let's get into La Petite Macarons and let me show you some of the reasons why I refer to this as the Macaron Bible. Okay. So, besides the fact that the book is just, like it's very colorful, like you see these beautiful macarons on the front and exactly what they're supposed to look like. And when you're learning to make macarons, you'll like sit there and look at that picture and be like, one day, one day, one day, my macarons will look like that. Or I'll just stare at this book and be like, "Ah, I tried. But you're not going to give up and you're going to get macarons that are going to look like this. You're not going to give up. Because, like I said in the last video, we don't quit on ourselves. So, let's see. Like, even in the very first page, you get like this beautiful shot of just these colorful, gorgeous macarons. They're beautiful. Like, how can you not love this? And you get the contents, and it starts out with, all about macarons, a brief history, the skin and feet, the 4 main ingredients, because macarons they have 4 main ingredients. They have almond flour, powdered sugar, egg whites, and granulated sugar. That is actually the 4 main ingredients of macarons. I mean, obviously going into it, if you watch the live I did on Friday where I, showed you how to make macarons, and it was kind of an extended video because I just wanted you guys to see what I was doing. But adding in the egg white powder and adding in the cream of tartar and adding in the salt, those are stabilizers and things that I do because over time I've realized that just makes my macarons more stable and better. And and these are tricks and tips that you'll learn going. But yeah, you know, there are actually only four main ingredients in these beautiful, frustrating little cookies. So yeah, so you have that, and you have before you bake the three base main macaron recipes, which is Italian, Swiss, and French. Those are the three main macarons. And you're like, wait a minute, macarons are French. Why is there Italian and Swiss? Well, actually, if you go on to read the book, macarons actually started in Italy and they were brought to France by King Henry's wife, Anne. It was either Anne or Catherine. I believe it was Anne. And she brought them to France when she was married to King Henry and gave them to her chef, and her chef was was the one that actually created macarons. So that's why they're known as a staple in France, but they were actually brought over from Italy. Um and if you know, most macarons are filled with buttercream. And there's also Swiss, Italian, French, and American buttercream. So there's a buttercream that matches up with the macarons. I mean, you can use any and they're interchangeable, but it's kind of, interesting that there is a French, Swiss, and Italian macaron and a French, Swiss, and Italian buttercream. Yeah, coincidence? I think not, but I could be wrong. And then you have, all these several like different recipes you can try. I mean, they have literally sweet shells, savory shells, ganache fillings, cream fillings, caramel fillings, frozen fillings. I have never tried an ice cream macaron, but if you ever want to get creative and try it, it's here. It exists. Maybe one day I'll try it. I'm not brave enough yet. But let me know if you are. I would really like to see how that turns out. Um, and they have fruit-based fillings, favorite American classics, savory fillings for less than perfect macarons. So they even have a troubleshooting guide in here, which is really cool. Troubleshooting guide, resources, acknowledgments, and the index. Excuse me. Whew. Excuse me for a minute there. Um, so yeah. So it starts out with the all about macarons, and they go on talking about how macarons first, capture your attention with their tantalizing colors. Um, it basically makes them look like jewels in a pastry shop. Like if you walk in a pastry shop, you notice them because when they're made correctly and they have their full feet and their shiny tops, like I showed in the video when I was making the macarons, that the reason, I use the food processor is to get all the clumps out of there where the color can bind. And it's basically this really smooth, pretty, colorful, like almost sparkly shell, and that's what you get, when they're made correctly. They are absolutely gorgeous. And the contrast between their crisp shells and their soft fillings, and it's the perfect way to satisfy a craving because you get, the crunch of the original bite when you bite into the shell, but then you get like this chewiness and the softness of the filling, and it satisfies all of those different things. Like you have potato chips that only satisfy like salty crunchy, and then you have like candy bars that only satisfy like the smooth velvety caramel or chocolate. But with a macaron, you literally get all of that. You get the crispy bite, you get the chewiness of the inside, you get the silky fluffiness of the filling. It is literally the perfect cookie. Um and then they go on, the authors go on to explain, when they first began making macarons. And these ladies have been making macarons for over 15, 20 years. So they have a lot of experience. But there is a nice little section in here that is called macaron or macaroons. And when we do this video next Monday, I am actually going to make macaroons for the first time in my life, just so I can hold them up to the camera and show you guys that there is a difference between the two of them. And when you actually see them together and you see them next to each other, and I actually pull them apart and show you, you're going to be amazed the difference between these two cookies. Like, it is shocking. Like, you'll feel silly almost for ever calling a macaron a macaroon or a macaroon a macaron, because it is seriously like disrespect to these two cookies, because they're nothing like each other. Like, they are both cookies. That is what the two have in common. That's it. Other than that, there's nothing in common with them. Let's see. And then it goes on to give you a brief history. Uh And it even talks about how the macaron actually goes back to, almond-based foodstuffs, which is what they were called in the Middle Ages. They were even like popular back then. They just weren't called macarons yet, and they didn't have the actual cookie form that they have now. But it was already almonds that were stuffed, an almond-based paste that was stuffed. And so macarons were slowly coming along even in the Middle Ages. And yeah, so it's really neat how to be able to read how far along this thing has come. This cookie has come. And then it goes on to say, what should a Parisian macaron look and taste like? Like, since macarons are so specialized, people are not always sure of what to expect when eating a macaron, let alone when baking one. They may have never eaten one before and have no point of reference. So there's three things you should look for when you're eating and when you're looking at and tasting a macaron. A slightly shiny, thin shell with a slight crunch. And that's what I was just talking about a minute ago, where you have, you originally bite into the macaron and you have that original like crunch, but it's not a big crunch. It's like a light, it breaks with your teeth. You can kind of hear it. It resists the teeth for a second when you bite into it. It should not be so delicate that it melts into the filling or so thick that it is mostly crust. A proportional narrow foot around the shell. And if you look at a macaron, they will actually have the little feet. Like, it's what they call they feet, but it's the ruffles that are around the outside of the macaron. And if you actually watch them when they're being baked, and that is the one thing, when you start making these, you become addicted to watching them rise in your oven. You will literally sit there and like watch these things like puff up, and they raise up and then their feet come out. And it is the neatest thing. Like, you're so proud of yourself when that actually happens the first time. Like, you will look and be like, "Oh, my macarons actually, oh, it's amazing. They actually have feet." You feel so accomplished when it actually has that. And the third thing is an interior that is soft, moist, and only slightly chewy. So, excessive chewiness is a sign of excessive baking in a macaron. So, you don't want that. But the shell and the filling eaten together should not be excessively sweet. And that is kind of amazing if you think about it, because macarons actually have the recipe I make that's in this book. Let me get to it and I will actually show you what I'm talking about. Let's see, where is my recipe? Hang on, guys. Let me find it real quick. This book literally has everything. It's amazing. So it even tells you the equipment you need for preparation to be able to get them to start going. Um, Summary of baking times by size, which macarons are known as minis, which are a half an inch to 1 centimeter, small, which is 1 inch or 3 centimeters, and then large, which is 2 inch or 6 centimeters. Let's see, page 40. So the method I use for all of mine is the French meringue method. That is the method I use to make macarons. I have tried the Swiss, I've tried the Italian, and it's just not for me. Like, you are going to find people like Camilla on Pies and Tacos, who I told you about in the first video that I watched a lot in the beginning, and I still get recipes from all the time because I am not a recipe creator. She uses Swiss. The majority of hers are Swiss macarons. Now, all of the macarons are pretty much going to look the same in the end, but there are different methods. So yeah, so I use the French meringue method. I don't know that I've ever seen anyone use the Italian method. Maybe I have, but yeah, it's I stick to the French. And it's the most basic of the meringue method. You probably used it before to make angel food cake or meringue cookies. The sugar's not heated, but rather whisked with the egg whites. It takes slightly longer for the meringue to form, but does not require a candy thermometer. That's another thing, like working with a candy thermometer was a little too much for me. Um, and just like I do with the French method, they say in this book that she adds powdered egg whites, which I showed you. One of the egg white powder I use is Judee's because it strengthens the protein structure of the macaron. It basically keeps the tops from collapsing. So yeah. So this is the recipe that I used for all of my macarons. Hopefully you can see that. But if not, I'm going to go over it real quick. Um, and macarons are always weighed on a scale when you're weighing them out, and they're always weighed in grams. So it's 165 grams of almond flour, 165 grams of powdered sugar or confectioner sugar, a pinch of salt. I use 2 grams of salt, 5 grams of powdered egg white, 150 grams of granulated sugar. I do mix those two together before I put them into my liquid egg whites. 115 grams of aged egg whites. I also explained in the last video how you make aged egg whites. I will use carton egg whites if I have nothing else available, but most of the time, more often than not, I actually make aged egg whites and use those. So, and then I will add 3 grams of cream of tartar into my aged egg whites. And then you can use food coloring, which I also said in the video where I was making the macarons. You really want to get your method down first before you go into actually using colors because you're adding liquid that has not been weighed. And if you are not experienced and you haven't practiced enough and you don't really have a method down, the color can really mess up your macarons. So you really don't want to do that until you have your method down and you know what you're doing. So yeah, that is my basic macaron um, French meringue method that I use to make macarons. It has worked beautifully for me every time. That's the one I learned on, and after trying several of them, it's just the one I kept coming back to, and it's tried and it's true and it works great. Um, yeah, but they do go on to explain the Italian meringue method, and they do give you a recipe for the Italian, and they go on to explain the Swiss meringue method, and they give you a recipe for that. And then they also give you the author, Kathryn Gordon of La Petite Macaron, one of the authors. She actually has her easiest French macaron method that she uses, and it's a little different from the way the other ones are made. But she has her own little recipe that she uses that's in here, and it goes into piping and baking macaron shells to doing the filling, and then you just get, if you look at this from like here on out, here all the way to, let's see, basically this whole section right here is nothing but recipes. So you're going to get tons and tons of recipes and cool things that you can make to impress your friends with, to impress your family with, to impress yourself with, because just learning to make these and them coming out correctly, that is a huge feat. So, yeah, you get all this practice with all these different shells. And then in the back, you do have acknowledgments, you have where they get all of their recipes, you have oven temperature issues and alternate baking instructions, you have resources, and they even show you different pictures of macarons so you can troubleshoot through the entire process. And because it says right here, it says macarons have a reputation for being troublesome. Yes, yes, they have a reputation for being stubborn little bleep. Yeah, there's so many variables that can affect it, that's why I say, get your method down before you start playing with colors, because there's just so many things that could go wrong, and you literally have to like troubleshoot and narrow down what each of your issues are and figure out what's causing them so you can actually go in and know how to correct it. And by the time you've corrected that when you're learning this, usually something else has popped up. And then you have to learn how to fix that. So yeah, that's fun. Yeah, but they even give you pictures like to show you, like if you can see that, like right there, it'll show you, scenario B, too much egg white, scenario C, too much powdered sugar or granulated sugar, scenario D, not enough sugar, too much almond flour. So it gives you different scenarios where you could go in and be like, oh, well, I wonder what I did. And does my macaron look like this? Okay, well, maybe I did one of these things wrong. And you can really go back and you can troubleshoot and check it out. It's really cool. So, guys, I highly, highly, highly suggest this book. You want to learn to make macarons and you want to end up becoming really good at it, and you want something that you can read and you can be like me when you start selling them at farmers markets, and you can put this book up as a reference, and it looks really pretty on a French macaron table at a farmers market. So that's what I use mine for now. Besides the recipes, like I think I've made thousand recipes that are in here. My red velvet recipe came from here, and the red velvet is one of my best sellers. It's amazing. My best selling macaron actually is tiramisu, and it is a pies and tacos recipe from Camilla, but it is absolutely amazing. It's the first time in my life that I ever used um espresso powder. I was gonna say espresso powder, and it's amazing. It's topped with cocoa powder. It's a beautiful little cookie. It tastes just like you're eating a piece of tiramisu. It is amazing. Yeah, but that's why I follow a lot of Camilla's recipes because oh, her recipes. She's such a good recipe writer. Um, but I digress. So go on Amazon and pick this up. You're really interested in trying to make macarons and learning all about them. And, if you're in pastry school, get a hold of this because you're going to be asked to make macarons at one point, and this is going to be a really good reference guide for you. So, anyway, it's called La Petite Macarons. It's colorful French confections to make it home. And it's by Kathryn Gordon and Annie McBride. That's Anne-E, not Annie. Um, yeah, and it's on Amazon. I believe it's like 17 or $18. It's less than 20, I know that. So yeah, go on there, check it out, put it in your cart, buy it, and read through it and make some amazing macarons and then post them because I would love to see them. So you guys go on and follow me on, Facebook at La Belle Petite Pastries, or you can follow me on Instagram at LP French Desserts. That's desserts with an S in it at the end. Um, I do have a link at the top of my page here where you can go onto my website. We do ship macarons. We don't ship them often, but we will if you place an order and we discuss it. Um, Obviously we have the YouTube channel here. You guys, if you like this channel and you're interested in seeing more videos about macarons and learning to make them and hearing about my journey and just everything going on in my world and the macaron world, subscribe to my channel. You get to hear more about cookies and macarons and all this fun stuff. Um, yeah, so definitely hit that like button, subscribe, show us some love, and go on to La Belle Petite Pastries Facebook page and Instagram page and check us out. There are plenty of pictures on there about my macarons and the food markets that we're at. And we have several options from our bakery. My husband, Chris, is our cookie dealer. He's going to be on one of my episodes soon, that's titled, Let Me Introduce You to My Dealer. Cookie, that is. I told you my titles were going to be clever. Um, yeah, so he's going to come on here and talk a little about the cookies he makes. And these are popular, they sell out at every farmer's market. They are almost more popular than my macarons are, which really just irks me. But you know what? It's great because it's part of my bakery, so it's fine. Yeah, and he's going to show you his hobbies and interest. He's a big enthusiast in the RC world, and he definitely is going to show you around. It's going to be that whole episode is going to be all about Chris and what he does in our bakery and the cookies he makes and his hobbies and interests. So you'll get to know my husband in that episode, and he's a really cool guy, and you'll get to see the contrasting differences between us. I'm a Southerner. I was born in Tennessee and raised in Georgia and Florida. You could probably tell by my accent. I went to college in Indiana. But other than that, I've lived in the South my whole life. My husband was born and raised in Providence and Johnston, Rhode Island. So we are literally north and south of this house. Not even joking. Um, so yeah, it's interesting. The first time I went up to Rhode Island and met my in-laws, I was walking around their house, talking the way I do, and I was like, "Y'all, check y'all this, y'all that," and they're use this, use that, f this, f that, use this, use that. Yeah. So it was a lot of y'all for me and a lot of use from them. So it was very interesting. Um, so anyway, I also want to let you guys know, just a side note on myself. I got a new job. I went back into the medical field. I am in ophthalmology now. I'm working for a place called Newsome Eye in Carrollwood in Tampa, Florida. I'm going to be a refractive coordinator. So I'm actually going to coordinate surgeries for LASIKs and cataract surgeries, which is going to be very interesting. So I'm really excited for this new opportunity. I'm grateful to be back in the medical field and grateful to be away from oncology and still be able to do something new and kind of stay around what I love, but it's new also. So it like, it expands your brain. So it'll be a great thing for me. I just went through a little bit of training today and I'm doing some online courses, so that's probably why I look like I'm half dead, 'cause, it's been a long time since I've woke up at 6:45 in the morning and actually got out of bed to do anything besides pee. Excuse me. Yeah, so, yeah, so I'm a little exhausted right now, and we have a big farmer's market coming up this weekend. We are actually going to Trinity Market for the first time, and we haven't done that market yet. And from what I've heard, it's a huge market. It's only one day a month. I think it's like the last Saturday, or no, the first Saturday of the month. So there's a lot of foot traffic, a lot of people, and it's gonna be fun. So we get to actually go to Trinity Farmers Market. We tried all last year to get in there, and our business just wasn't big enough. And finally, we got invited. So, if you're local and you're watching this, come see us at Trinity's Farmers Market this Saturday, March 4th. Yeah, 4th. I can't believe it's already March. Um, or about to already be March. So, yeah, guys, if you're in Trinity, come see us. Um, if not, then leave us a message. Hit us up on the website. Hit us up on Facebook. If you have any questions about the macarons, about what I make, what I do, feel free to leave me questions. I will be quick to try to get back and answer you. Usually I'd be able to answer all day. Right now I can't because obviously I'm working outside of the house now. But I will answer you when I get back home. Um, yeah. So thanks for coming and spending time with me tonight. I am sorry I'm not as peppy as I normally am. But like I said, I'm a little exhausted at the moment. But at least I do have a ring light now, and you guys can actually see my face, and it doesn't look like I have a discotheque going on behind me because it's blinking constantly. Um, yeah. So grab the book on Amazon. I will try to add a link to the bottom down there. I need to also put my recipe on there so you guys can try my recipe if you want. Well, their recipe, but the recipe I use for the French meringue method. And yeah, go on, like the channel, subscribe for me because I need subscribers, guys. I'm brand new here. Um, so yeah, and I will see you guys next Monday when we talk about the differences, the vast differences of macarons and macaroons, and why a macaron dealer will look at you and roll their eyes at you when you look at them and go, "Do you sell macaroons?" No, I don't, and I don't make them either. But I can show you a macaron, and I can guarantee you'll like it better than a macaron. So yeah, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. I will catch you guys next Monday. Peace out. Bon appetit. Have a good week, guys.